Today on Around Kansas, Deb looks ahead to some of her favorite things, including a new winery. Next is a little story about the snipe. Yes, snipe hunting is real, folks. Then on the front porch, it's the farmer and florist, Amy Shum. Then Ron Wilson is back to entertain us with one of his poems, and we end with a story from Michelle Martin about Fort Scott and the Indian Territory.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Corn. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Good morning. Welcome to Around Kansas. And since it's a brand new year, I have a brand new drinking vessel. How about that? History rock star Deb. And this was a gift from my friend Michelle. And there are a few of us who have the designation of history rock star. And in keeping with the whole rock star deal this morning, I thought I would sparkle a little extra in honor of our new year. And I hope that over the holiday season you had the opportunity to go by Lecompton and visit the Christmas trees. Well, Lecompton has some more big news for us. As if Christmas trees and 2 museums were not enough, and the great little shops there is a brand new winery, Empty Nesters, and they just opened, and they will be open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And I think the website is emptynesters.com, but they use the history of Lecompton and the border conflict to name some of their wines. So you have the Territorial Capital, and you have Jayhawker's Delight. So there's something for you Kansans, and hopefully they'll find something for the Missourians to drink as well. I'm not sure the Missourians are going to be too keen on the Jayhawker's Delight, but you never know. They're a mixed bag over there in the state of Missouri. So I hope you can make it over and check that out sometime. And one of the reasons I wanted to mention that is because, there's just so much news of closings and, all the downside to the economy. And to have a brand new business opening, I think is really big news and something to be celebrated. And what better way to celebrate than with a glass of wine? So much good news out there. So look for it and share yours with us. One other piece of good news I saw over the holiday. Did you see that little girl? Gosh, I can't think of her name. I'm going to have to investigate that. But Paisley from down in Cimarron, who got the world record non-typical buck. I think she shot it back in September or October, and they just got it scored. This little girl's 14 years old. That is pretty amazing. And that brings up, along with hunting season, a lot of the hunter safety courses for kids that are out there. It's something for you to look for. And there's a lot of videos online, too, during this cold winter month. I was looking at the records for January, which is traditionally our coldest month here in the Northern Hemisphere. And I was looking at the Kansas records, and the low was set in, gosh, I can't remember where it was, but the low was below 40. That's our 40 degrees below zero is our low. Let me rephrase that. 40 degrees below zero is our record low. Our record low high is minus 13, and that was set in January about 100 years ago. So I thought those were some interesting figures. And what better way to stay warm during this cold winter month than a little wine from Empty Nesters? I think I shall order some today. We got a great show. Stay with us.
Howdy, I'm Seth Hayes, and welcome to my hometown, from then to now. Council Grove has a rich history, as deep as the prairie tallgrass. Spend the day visiting 25 historic sites, or explore the unique shops and restaurants, or mosey out of town along the Santa Fe Trail. You all visit my hometown, Council Grove, in the heart of the Flint Hills.
This segment brought to you by the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center in Oakley.
Our wildlife segments feature some pretty interesting birds and other animals, and I find this one very interesting, and I think you will too. The snipe has a rather mixed reputation, but when you look into the reality of this bird, it's a pretty interesting story. So let's take a look at the snipe.
Most of us have heard of or even perpetrated the practical joke of snipe hunting. That fool's errand of tricking the greenhorn into riding into the woods, making ridiculous calls, waiting in vain for the variously described fictitious beast to show up. But what if you really want to bag a snipe? What should you do? Well, first make sure your Kansas hunting license is in order. Wilson snipe, formerly known as common snipe, is a large shorebird, just shy of a foot tall and under 4 ounces. It is one of 2 shorebird species that can be hunted in Kansas. Like other shorebirds, this species prefers to forage on mudflats and in water less than 3 inches deep, in wetlands and along shorelines. Unlike most other shorebirds, common snipe frequently feed at vegetated sites. They use their 2 to 3 inch long bill to probe into the mud for insect larvae and earthworms. Snipe nest in Canada in the northern tier of the U.S. states. They begin arriving in Kansas during the late summer and can remain throughout the winter. Cheyenne bottoms and other shallow marshes are the primary snipe hunting areas in Kansas. Snipe hunting is physically challenging because hunters wade or slog through often mucky areas to flush snipe. Just getting off a shot is difficult at times because it's hard to keep from falling down while swinging the gun in response to their erratic, fast flight. Many a shot is not taken because the hunter is off balance and doesn't want to fall in the mud. Snipe hunters need to be proficient in wetland bird identification to make sure they do not accidentally shoot similar-looking species that are protected. Yellowlegs, greater and lesser, and dowitchers, long-billed and short-billed, are the 4 species most similar in appearance and size to snipe. Color patterns, flight, and call are the best characteristics for distinguishing snipe from look-alike species. Snipe fly in a zigzag pattern and more powerfully than yellowlegs and dowitchers. Dowitchers and yellowlegs tend to fly in a straight line. Snipe tend to give a single note call when flushed, while dowitchers and yellowlegs typically give multiple note calls. So brush up on your snipe identification techniques and invite some friends to join you in the snipe hunt. Oh, and if you fry up that little beast, let us know if it really tastes like chicken. Welcome to the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in my hometown of Oakley, Kansas. We're the front door of Western Kansas, located on 3 main highways, I-70, US 83, and US 40. And all those roads lead to history, beautiful scenery, and adventure, no matter which direction you go. We now have an IHOP. That brand that you've trusted up and down the road in all your travels is staffed with local folks, real people just like you and me, and we're waiting on you to join us. So for fun, adventure, fuel up, fuel your body, and let's have some fun.
This segment brought to you by Bob Schwartz Financial. Values, commitment, transparency.
E.G. Taves joining you on the program today, and our guest is Amy Shum. She's the owner and operator of Farmer and Florist in Home, Kansas. She is growing her own flowers, something that is pretty rare in the state of Kansas. Now, we've talked about a lot of things, but one of the things that would send me over the edge is the weather in Kansas as far as any agriculture. Something that you've really had to struggle with as far as what grows, what's blown away, different things like that?
Yes, so it's definitely never in my hands. It's always in Mother Nature's hands, for sure. Yeah, as a farmer, you just kind of have to roll with the punches and do what you can. And we have the tunnels for that reason. You know, it protects it from excessive wind and temperature swings, and it helps us, kind of do season extensions and all of those things. So yeah, that's why we definitely grow in tunnels if we can, and we definitely put our most expensive crops in the tunnels just to keep them extra protected. And then we also net a lot of things, which also helps with, kind of wonky stems and keeping things upright. Especially if you've got a big windstorm that comes through. I mean, it could just take out your whole crop. But if you have it netted, there's a much better chance of it, being saved, essentially, and not breaking. So
now, and I was going to ask, that probably helps with animals, too, or anything like that, because we do live in Kansas, so deer and rabbits and everything else.
Yeah, so thankfully we haven't had too much pressure with deer or anything else because we are kind of on that main, strip of home cities. So we're kind of technically considered in town, but we have, 3 acres. So yeah, we haven't had too much deer pressure or other animals, fingers crossed, so far. So I've been kind of lucky with that.
Now, have you had anybody approach you about putting beehives or anything like that in or around your flowers?
So, funny you asked that. Yes, most flower farmers actually will have bees just because they kind of go hand in hand, honestly. But sadly, my husband is deathly allergic to bees. So and they get, doing bees and all that, they're heavy. So I just didn't want to take on that task of trying to do it all myself. And so I've just kind of put that aside. So yes, I would love it if someone else could have bees for me. But yes, we've kind of just decided that he doesn't need to carry around an EpiPen all day long.
Yeah. But you'd be open to somebody else having bees on your property.
Yes. We love honey, so yes, we would totally. I
was asking any other aspects that you have found difficult in this growing process.
As a farmer, it's all a labor of love.
Thanks for joining us today. That was our guest, Amy Shum. She's the owner and operator of Farmer and Florist in Home, Kansas, growing flowers for agriculture, which is pretty rare in the state of Kansas.
I'm Bob Swartz, and I've devoted the last 43 years to helping Kansans reach their retirement goals and to protect the family farm. At Bob Swartz Financial, we believe everyone should be able to live the retirement they've always dreamed of. Our team of professionals can help you create an efficient strategy using a variety of investment vehicles to help you address your financial needs and your concerns. Bob Swartz Financial values commitment and transparency.
This segment brought to you by Santa Fe Trail Meats in Overbrook. Let us help feed your family.
I have discovered a new thing, and that is my phone can navigate me wherever I am going using a global positioning satellite. It's amazing. This poem is called Global Positioning. I have a dadgum GPS. It's right there on my phone. It seems it finds any address mankind has ever known. I enter number and the street. It finds the thoroughfare. It's simply one amazing feat. My phone directs me there. It tells me to go right or left and how far to the turn. It never has left me bereft, as I have come to learn. It advises me which lane to choose, the name of the next street. It's one amazing thing to use. My road map's obsolete. But there was something I went through I thought was kind of scary. I had to run some flowers to a country cemetery. I put in where I had to drive. My phone got me right there. But what it said when I arrived is what made me beware. What gave me such a sense of dread and caused me consternation? The voice inside my phone just said, "You've reached your final destination." Happy trails.
In 1821, a trade route was opened from Missouri in the United States across prairies and mountains to Mexico. In 2021, we will mark 200 years of epic conflicts and grand adventures, larger-than-life personalities, and sweeping landscapes. Join us on an historic journey. The Santa Fe Trail lives on.
Find us on social media or santafetrail.org.
This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Good morning, Michelle, fellow history rock star. And Michelle's got some very interesting segments this month of January as we look at the connections between the state of Oklahoma and the state of Kansas. They were, sister states for a long, long time, sister territories for a while, and that has resulted in some pretty interesting history. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning, Deb, and a very happy new year to you and all our viewers. This month, I want to take a look at the connections between Kansas and the Indian Territory, our neighbor to the south we know as Oklahoma. Today, let's look at the connections between Fort Scott and Fort Gibson. While historians recognize the close yet troubled relationship between Kansas and Missouri, what of our neighbor on the southern border? From the mid-1840s to the close of the Civil War, Fort Scott, located in southeastern Kansas, and Fort Gibson, located in the Indian Territory, shared a close working relationship. After its founding in 1842, Fort Scott played a major role in supplying men and materials for military efforts in the Indian Territory and the West. Fort Scott was ideally located halfway between Fort Leavenworth to the north and Fort Gibson to the south. Supply convoys left Fort Scott laden with foodstuffs, uniforms, armaments, and medical supplies headed for Fort Gibson on a regular basis. The officers at both forts worked hand in hand to police the permanent Indian frontier line that separated the lands of native peoples in the West from the United States in the East. During the Civil War, Forts Scott and Gibson were key for Union control in the region amongst the native nations in the Indian Territory. In the summer of 1863, troops from Fort Scott, including the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Regiments of Indian Home Guard and the 1st Kansas Colored Infantry, worked to protect supply trains destined for Fort Gibson. On July 1st and 2nd, 1863, the First Battle of Cabin Creek pitted Confederates under the command of Colonel Stand Watie against troops from Fort Scott. After a Confederate retreat, the supply train continued on to Fort Gibson. By July of 1863, Confederate attacks upon Union supply trains had grown troublesome. Union forces, including African American and Native American troops from Kansas and Fort Scott, led by General James Blunt, made their way into the Indian Territory. On July 17, 1863, Blunt's Union forces clashed with General Douglas Cooper's Confederates. By the end of the day, Blunt and his Union troops, many from Fort Scott, were victorious. The battle at Honey Springs was the culmination of the relationship between Forts Scott and Gibson and preserved Union control over the Indian Territory for the remainder of the war. Today, Fort Scott is a unit of the National Park Service. Fort Gibson is an Oklahoma State historic site. You can visit both places to connect with our shared history. I hope you'll join me next time for another historical adventure somewhere around Kansas.
Hope your new year is off to a very nice start. It's great to have you with us every week. We appreciate you so much, and we appreciate your telling your friends all about us and sharing us on Facebook or our YouTube links. I'm Deb Goodrich, and I'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.